We know you're here to open a branch here in Charlotte.
Yeah.
What makes Charlotte so appealing?
Well, first of all, Charlotte's been a great growth town, and as you know, it's headquarters of some of the great banks here. It's been growing over time. I think we opened our first branch like 4 or 5 years ago, and so we're now in all 48 states. So we actually want to be everywhere, even some places that maybe aren't growing as fast as Charlotte. But here you have schools and universities and businesses and research, and that's what makes it so appealing. Plus, I like being in the backyard of our toughest competition.
I'm sure you do. You know, you say 5,000 branches in all. What would you say to somebody who says that seems a bit antiquated giving online banking today?
Yeah.
What would you say?
1 million people a day visit those branches. And I always say that people want to visit their money. They're much more advice. So in the old days, it used to be more transactional. But now in the average branch, you have a wealth manager, a mortgage person, a small business specialist. 1 million people a day go. So half the accounts are still open in branches. And even people who are mostly digital, use a branch every now and then. And even people who are 100% digital sometimes open an account because they have the opportunity to go to a branch if they have an emergency. So it helps. And believe it or not, it also, once we're in town, we start doing more middle market banking. It's almost a branding thing, more middle market banking, more private banking, more investment banking, more state, local. So very often the state, local, the cities and the hospitals and the schools, they like the fact you're physically there. It makes it easier to actually tell them why they should bank with us. And we do have great products and services for them.
You mentioned the competition. Bank of America, Wells, Truist, Ally, all have headquarters here. How can Chase compete with that?
It's hard. You know, I think we're the number 10 bank here, and our size is like, we're not even a tenth of what some of those banks do. But we want to do a great job for ourselves and for our clients. Sometimes we have different products and services. We could help certain clients in India and China, maybe some other people can't. So you use your strengths to do a good job for the client. Some of those clients are being very well taken care of. I don't expect them to move, but we're here. And I think the other thing, I've always thought competition is good for everybody. When we bank around the world, and sometimes they try to hold out competition, and I think it's bad for the countries. I think they're better off having good competition for the citizens of that country.
You talk about Charlotte, and you see a young, savvy, educated workforce that's especially savvy when it comes to finance and fintech. I know you have an investment bank here that has about 500 people. Any chance you all will expand your footprint here beyond that and beyond just branches?
It's possible. Once you start, what happens is once you start expanding, you get to know cities and towns and the quality of the workforce, stuff like that. It's possible you come up with a new scheme. We're going to build a tech center here, or build an ops center here, or build, we have a lot of specialties. It is possible over time. We haven't decided to do that, but I would put that in the realm of possibility.
I want to talk to you about your letter to the shareholders this past spring. And while it was that, it was also, some would say, could substitute for a political party platform, parts of it. You talk about a consistent tax policy, you talk about reforming the education system, you talk about remedying the healthcare system, retirement system, building more affordable housing. By those standards that you lay out, are our elected officials failing us?
I think one of the great lessons when you get out, Charlotte or Greenville or any city, is that some places are doing a great job, and they're facing their issues. They're working together. It's not as angry as you get, if you listen to like CNN and Fox type thing. I think, and I made a list of all the issues that are important for the health of America, not just economic, but the health of America. The health is one of the things I make of, and that we need to be strong. And we need to be strong for our military, for our global alliances, for the future of the free world. And so I just made a list of the issues. And in some ways, we are laying ourselves down. And I was honest about it. These are not Democratic or Republican issues. What can we do to be better for our citizens? And we should start doing it. And I would say it's more D.C. that needs to focus on those things than Charlotte.
In cities like Charlotte, I think you think about Charlotte, you think about Austin, you think about Nashville, you think about Tampa, sort of cities that are really booming right now. What would your advice be to city leaders who are watching this right now as far as keeping that competitive advantage?
Yeah. I mean, you basically said it, which is you have to think that way. Like, how do you compete tomorrow and don't rest on your laurels, and you don't have a divine right to success? And the things of success we know. It's safe streets, It's great universities, it's the workforce, it's bringing in capital investments, it's consistency of law, it's keeping taxes very reasonable, both individual taxes and corporate taxes, it's affordable housing. It's that whole bucket of things that a lot of these cities are doing a great job at it, and they weren't 20 years ago. So if you look at some of these cities, they've made a dramatic change, and then you have cities on the other side. I don't want to name their names, who, if they don't fix, if they don't fix it, they're going to lose a lot of things at the margin. And they're resting on the laurels. I think that's just a bad idea.
Our friends over at CNBC have ranked North Carolina best state in business for 3 of the last 4 years.
Right.
It came with a caveat this year that things that could threaten that would be Hurricane Helene recovery, which is a big issue here, tariffs, and the rollback of Medicaid expansion. While that is the purview of state lawmakers, they can't do it all on their own without the federal help.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would have to study that.
Yeah.
Those things are affecting everybody, so I'm not sure it's worse for Charlotte from other places. And I think a lot of folks are going to do a lot of things to make up for their own shortcomings, whether they're caused by the government, federal government, or locally. And obviously, hurricanes and terrible events like that. But I think the people of Charlotte have been pretty good at overcoming disasters like that. So.
Just a few more questions.
Yeah.
I know it was in the Wall Street Journal this morning that you've patched things up with the president. What's one thing you would give him credit for?
Well, I think there's control of the borders, and every nation needs that, and we have it. I hope he pivots to reform now, which is DACA stays, path to citizenship, seasonal workers, more merit-based, which, I've heard him talk about. He's in favor of those things, but I don't think those things were doable without border control. And now you have border control, and I'm not justifying everything they're doing for it, but I think having a very stable and competitive tax system is critical for the long-term health of America. I would give them credit for that. I think the deregulatory agenda I'd give them credit for. We've been adding rules and regulations. Any small business person, large business person, university, restaurants, they all know it's unbelievable. And it slows down growth, it slows down investment, and very importantly, because I'm not sure the American public fully understands it, it hurts lower paid people more almost all the time, every single time. So, people think that some dereg is going to help the rich guys and help the big companies. They're kind of making a mistake. It'll actually create more jobs, better paying jobs, more capital investment, more work skills, and we have a lot to do to do that, but those things actually work.
And the one thing you would criticize him for?
Well, I'm not going to do that on national TV here. Well,
that's why we're local.
I think there's no criticism to me, but I personally would do certain things differently, and I think we have a lot of wonderful, hardworking immigrants in this country, which I've heard him talk about too. So I'm not sure I'm completely wrong if you're here and say, well, no, I agree with what Jamie just said. So, we'll see.
You've said in the past you don't have political ambitions. Is that still true?
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
I am a red-blooded, patriotic, full-throated, free enterprise, capitalist American. And I really care about my country, so I'm going to fight for my country. That's not about running for office. It's about getting involved in the fight to do the things that actually grow the economy and make the country stronger.
And finally, Hugh McCall is a legend in these parts. A lot of people credit him for making this city what it is today, because he bought Bank of America here back in the 90s. Turned 90 this summer. From your vantage point, as somebody who does this job on a daily basis and it has for years, what made Hugh McCall successful?
Well, okay. Now I know him. Actually, I actually spoke to him recently, and he is a legend. I mean, he put together a lot of these banks, and it was hard. I mean, people don't realize that when you put together banks, you have to consolidate thousands of systems and cultures and comp plans, and most of them failed. So it isn't like it was but I think he was but I remember way back then, it was a no-nonsense, a former Marine, get it done, respected by his troops, and he got it done. And so happy 90th birthday, Hugh.
There you go.